Hey, this is Chris, the Idaho Painter. Hopefully you enjoyed this free video lesson on fences and decks. This is part of my comprehensive course over at paintlifesupply.com. The whole course goes into marketing, it goes into estimating, it goes into how to professionally stain fences, decks, and pergolas. So hopefully you enjoy this lesson, and thank you very much for watching. In this video, I'm going to be talking about prepping and masking. Now, this is something kind of unlike interior and exterior painting where you're doing a lot of prepping and masking. Doing fence, decks, and pergolas, there's not as much masking and protecting that you got to do, but there is going to be some. So what would you actually mask? I would say probably the most common scenario that you're going to run into when doing fences, that's probably the most common thing we actually stain. Now, typically a fence is going to run into some type of structure at some point in time. It's going to butt up against a house is the most common scenario. Now, why would you actually mask that off? If you get any type of overspray, even a drip on that house, more than likely that house hasn't been recently painted and it could be extremely difficult to touch up. Now, if the house was painted 5 years ago and you get overspray on it and the customer doesn't have any of the paint left over from when it was painted, that's going to be a big problem. So we always, mask to control overspray, mask to control drips, anything getting where we don't want it. And more than anything, you don't want it on a house where the touch-ups could be difficult or where you could end up running into painting the whole side of a house or repainting the whole house itself because of overspray. So when the house runs into, or where the fence runs into the house, typically stretch out 72-inch masking film down the sides. We stretch it up the top. We protect that, surface and area from overspray continuing over the top of the fence or down the fence line onto the house. Another thing, we'll run into is decks. You got a deck, and typically a deck is going to be butted up against a structure, a house, where people are going to be coming out of the house onto the deck. Wherever that deck is butted up against that structure, you're going to want to mask. The most common thing we do there is we typically don't stretch plastic up the house. We'll just run a row of 9-inch paper along the deck because we're going to be cutting in along the deck, and then we'll be working our way out if we're going to be using a sprayer. So we typically don't have to run plastic up the side of the house. If you are going to be spraying up against the house, then you may want to just run plastic up the house, 72-inch film, to protect it. So it's better safe than sorry, in the end. Another thing where we're going to be, masking and using possible plastic is where we're covering plants. Now, we will cover plants with drop cloths also, and I'll talk about drop cloths here in a minute, but a drop cloth, if you're draping them over sensitive flowers, sensitive plants where you can be breaking the flowers, snapping off rows, flowers, or any type of decorative flowers, we'll drop it with plastic. So we'll use 9x400 plastic, or we'll use our 72-inch masking film. That's significantly more expensive than 9x400 plastic. The plastic is another handy tool to protect from drips and overspray. And plastic, if it gets any oil-based products out on it, you just roll it up, throw it away at the end of the day, and it's not a big mess. So other than paper, tape, and plastic, there's the other option, and that is using drop cloths. Where would we use drop cloths versus paper, tape, and plastic? We're typically always going to be, if we're working over a walkway, we're going to be dropping drop cloths on the walkway, maybe over a gate where a gate swings over a walkway, it's going to be underneath the gate. If you're working overhead, a pergola, a gazebo, we're always dropping the whole entire concrete area that we're going to be working on to cover that. I don't want to have just one drop cloth underneath where I'm working. We typically have enough drop cloths where we can cover the whole area. Any type of curbing, a lot of times there could be decorative curbing that can run up against the fence. We're going to put a drop cloth over any type of decorative curbing. Plants, ground cover that could withstand the weight of a drop cloth, we're going to put the drop cloths down on those plants. But what you don't want to do is take a heavy drop cloth that's been used for years and years, that's got a lot of added weight of overspray on it, throw it on top of plants where you're going to damage them. Now, here's something that you might not think about, but a lot of things I talk about in my videos is because of past experience. I do use oil-based products now quite often, but if you are using drop cloths and you're using oil-based products, if you get overspray or you spill oil on a drop cloth, when you go to fold that up, the products that we use, they will not dry. If you are using oil-based products that dry, when you fold the drop cloth up, it's actually going to stick, tack to each other, glue the drop cloth together. When you go to unfold the drop cloth, it's going to damage, it's going to tear the drop cloth, especially if it's a butyl drop cloth. So we've actually damaged, ruined drop cloths by using oil-based products on them. So if I'm using oil-based products, we typically are always trying to side towards using plastic. If plastic is not an option, or a better option, 4x8 rolls or 4x8 roll of paper. We'll roll it down. I've done, recently did a wrought iron fence where it was up against grass, and then the other side was a walkway. We just rolled that 4-foot paper out, tacked that down, and that ended up being our substitute instead of a drop cloth, because we were actually using oil-based product. The oil-based products just take longer to dry. If you're using a water-based stain, water-based products, they dry really, really fast. By the end of the day, you could actually fold your drop cloth up, and it's not going to tack and stick together. They act a lot like water-based paints. When they get overspray on them, it dries extremely fast, and you don't have to worry about your drop cloths basically getting all glued together and getting damaged. Oil-based products, the ones we use, they're actually non-drying oils. So if you get a lot of oil on that drop cloth, you actually fold that thing up. When you go to unfold it and reuse it again, the drop cloth could have the wet oil on it that could actually transfer whatever you're actually using on. Say you walked into a customer's house and now you lay out this drop cloth on their nice, beautiful carpets, that oil could actually transfer to the carpet. So whenever we're using oil-based products, we do not use our drop cloths. Once we get everything masked, to control overspray, your masking does really well, but it's not practical to actually put masking paper, masking plastic on the grass, on the rocks, on the ground, and you can't actually mask over the top of the fence. So we actually use cardboard shields. They're 36-inch, cardboard shields, 36-inch by 12 inches. They hook to a cardboard shield. I use that to shield the dirt. I typically don't want overspray getting on the dirt, even though it doesn't matter. It just is not a good look. We try to shield as much as we can. We shield rocks. There's a lot of time there's decorative rock underneath the fence, the grass. Even though the grass is going to be mowed, it's going to be edged, and that's all going to go away. It's not a good look to actually get overspray, especially if you're using like a solid color stain. That's going to, show up extremely bad when the customer shows up. Say you're doing a white fence, a white picket fence, and you get white overspray all over the grass. It's probably going to be there for a week. If you're using like a transparent or semi-transparent oil-based stain, you're probably not even going to hardly see it at all, but it's still a good look just to actually shield it. Over the top of the fence, we use a cardboard shield to control overspray over the top. When you come to the end of the fence, we use a cardboard shield to control overspray from whipping around the backside or around the end of the fence, or even when we're doing a gate that swings open, we'll use a cardboard shield to swing the gate. So that's a little bit about, the prepping, the masking, what we do, where we do it when we get ready to do these type of projects.